Thank you, Danelle, and I'm sure that whets everybody's appetite to see the GAR Hall just down the street. Please do so at your convenience. I have one quick addition to our program. We have with us today retired Colonel Gary Carlberg, who is also now a private in the 1st Minnesota Volunteers Reenactor Group, and he is the commander of Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War. And he has a display over here, and Gary, would you come up and tell us about your organization briefly, and then have a couple more announcements.
Thank you, Tom. Like you said, retired Colonel Gary Carlberg. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the Sons of Union Veterans than anything else. I do want to mention first off that on the 9th of May, General George Meade I will be doing a presentation on the controversial General George Meade here in the Litchfield GAR facility at 1:30. And for those that have seen it, don't tell them what we do. But part of the controversial George Meade, there is a news correspondent called Edward Cropsey, spelled in Meade's correspondent Cropsey, that called Meade a coward. Now, I don't know about you, but calling the goggly-eyed snapping turtle a coward may not be a career-enhancing move. So, anyway, a lot of fun. Meade took care of this freedom of press silliness and shut that down. And anyway, it should be, for those that have seen it, we usually get some pretty rave reviews, a lot of fun, a lot of history. So really, you're going to think that Danelle and I had coordinated this, because the first part of my presentation, what I talk about is the Sons of Unions are the sons of the GAR. And the last member of the Grand Army of the Republic was Albert Wilson, who's died at age 106 in 1956 and is buried in Duluth, Minnesota. So I find it interesting that we have the 1st Minnesota with Josiah's King, supposedly the first of the first. And we also have the other bookend where we have Albert Wilson, the last of the Civil War, but we have no real formal Civil War battles in Minnesota. So, who goes? So anyway, let's see, get this right. I'm hearing noise. And you see, we're doing a ceremony in the top there about... All right, so, Operation Headstone. As a veteran with multiple deployments, the VA, a headstone for a veteran is free. Why do we have over 2,000 Civil War vets in the state of Minnesota in unmarked graves? So, part of my group's bit is we did about 27 headstones last year, just learning the process. The goal is to do 250 this year. Hey, doing the right thing. And so it's a partnership with the VFW and the American Legion and the community to take care of what should have been done 100 years ago. And what's interesting, of course, is as the Vice Commander of the American Legion in my community, I'm the guy that's in charge of getting ready for Memorial Day. And for 10 years, I walked over a grave at an unmarked Civil War soldier. And then Mr. Carlberg, or Colonel Carlberg, comes along and starts doing this research and is like, wait a minute. And so I got him a headstone last year. And in Stearns County, we had last soldier ceremony, identified several that didn't have headstones, and with the help of a friend, we were able to get one that are going to dedicate in the end of May for him. And so we're doing this across the state of Minnesota, and once again, the goal is 250. So there's a lot of things that go into it. The biggest challenge tends to be, how do you find the documents from 1860s or whenever the person died that the VA requires, because they want a death certificate. Well, before 1900, there weren't death certificates in Minnesota. But anyway, I go on. So, one of the things we do is we do research in every county to find every soldier You notice I didn't just say Union soldier. One of my other hats I wear is I'm with the Minnesota Military and Veterans Museum, and part of that, and as a partner with each of the county historical societies we're doing, they want to know about all the veterans in the community, to include the colored troops, the Confederate troops, the militia, and so, you know, we cover the gamut. But what we do is we try to find where everybody's buried. Now, you look on the National Park Service and you can see the name of the person, what unit he was in, and usually the state and regiment, but where is he buried and what's his story? Well, we do the research. When we're done with the research, we do what we call a last Union Veterans ceremony in each county to identify the last one. And the other thing we do is then we load the data in the database. Now, Mike is standing up over by where our little booth is at, and one of the things that he will do for you is, because we do so much research, he'll do on-the-spot research. If you're saying, hey, I think my great-grandfather was in the Civil War, and he was in this unit, where is he buried? Okay, we may have that for you. Okay. Now, part of what we do when we gather the data is we load this in this National Civil War database. And this database is, like I said, national, and there are 833,000 names with where they're buried at. And usually, you know, when they started, when they got out, what unit they were in. And if you can see, you can't see the words, but I'm just trying to point out to you, we try to add in a short little bio, more about things like, not only when did he start, but what city did he enlist in, what city did he get out in, was he a POW, was he wounded, did he get a disability? This is all information that the next generations are going to love to have, and we make it available on not only on Find a Grave, but also in this database that you have access to. So what's cool here is, since we started adding data in the database in 2023, we've added 4,500 soldiers buried in Minnesota. Pretty cool. This just gives a little picture of, when I said we work across the entire state, there's 87 counties in Minnesota. I think if I would have known how big this job was, I wouldn't have volunteered for it. But we've done 36 ceremonies. We're doing 21 today. And we've done the research on then 56. I have not done Meeker County yet. I need to talk to you about getting your data, so then I will turn back when I'm done and give you more data than you could believe. What we find is, kind of like Tom talked about, I think in the beginning, about one of his relatives came to Minnesota because of a free land grant. We're finding in some counties, 40% of the Union soldiers are not from Minnesota. There was free land in Minnesota after the Dakota Wars and all that kind of stuff. And so just a huge increase in population. And so then you're going to find out about people you didn't even know were here. So we have fun working together to find that. And it's all good there. Now, the other thing of interest is, my little group is about 50 people. We had an increase of about 40% in the last 2 years. So like Twin Cities Roundtable, we're an anomaly, we're a Civil War group actually growing by leaps and bounds. But we're having fun solving mysteries and having these ceremonies. And so some of the things that, if you're interested in, and we've got a schedule of these events over at the table there that you can find out when one's close to you. But you may want to come and visit one. When we're doing this ceremony, we wear the Civil War uniform. If we have reenactors that are able to join us, then they fire the 3 volleys with Springfield rifles, blanks, usually blanks. And then, of course, we need photographers to take and help search for headstones in some of the cemeteries, because you're looking for the ones that aren't registered. Now, here's the interesting thing. We were just talking about this morning. We started a new deal where on Ancestry.com, they've got kind of like on Facebook where there's a messenger within that system. So if someone's good with genealogy type work, I need some help. The cool thing we did in a couple of them was when we're going to do a ceremony, we put out on Ancestry.com to the family tree that we're doing a ceremony for this guy, and we had people saying, I didn't know I had a Civil War guy in my family tree. And we had a guy come from 2 states away to our ceremony, bring his great-grandfather's burial flag to our ceremony. Now, is that cool or what? So anyway, but I need help because, to be honest, I need my researchers to keep people like Danielle happy, to keep finding the research, and so I don't want to have them distracted going this other, informing people, so I need help to help me with that. And if you're done any research at all, I sure need some help. And if you haven't done any research, we have a really good training program. My program is shared nationally, so others can do things. And the other thing is, of course, the headstones are free. We do the free labor to find the documents and order them through the VA. But cemeteries, they seem to need to pay the people. And so there's a cost to set the stone. I have some communities in rural areas where the veterans from the VFW and the Legion will set the stones for free. Wonderful. But there are other ones, of course, they need to pay the labor. And so the average cost is around $250 in Minnesota. And there's one cemetery in Minnesota that charges $550 per headstone. And that particular cemetery has 700 unmarked graves. So if you can help us out with a few nickels, that would help us out. Thank you very much. I highly encourage you to see the GR facility. It is amazing. And for those that haven't seen Mead in action, thank you.